The weight of trust. Sarah Mitchell's fingers trembled as she gripped the cold metal railing of the fire escape, 7 stories above the rain-slicked streets of downtown Portland. The building behind her was engulfed in flames, smoke pouring through the shattered window of her studio apartment like some terrible living thing. Below, red and blue lights painted the darkness in urgent strokes, and voices, so many voices, shouted up at her through the November night. But she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare down at the impossibly distant pavement and feel her entire body lock up with the kind of terror that erases everything else. "I can't," she whispered to no one, her voice stolen by the wind and the roar of the fire. "I can't." That's when she heard him. One voice, cutting through all the chaos with a clarity that seemed to bypass her ears entirely and speak directly to something deeper inside her. "Hey, look at me, not down." Sarah's eyes found him almost against her will. A man stood directly beneath her position, his face tilted up, illuminated by the streetlights. He wore a navy jacket, jeans, and the most ridiculously calm expression she'd ever seen on another human being. Even from this height, she could see the steadiness in his posture, the way he planted his feet like he was rooted to the earth itself. "I'm Jake," he called up to her. "And I need you to listen to me very carefully. You're going to be okay. The ladder won't reach." A firefighter's voice crackled nearby. "Structural integrity's compromised, we can't get the truck closer." Sarah's breath came in sharp, painful gasps. The fire escape beneath her feet groaned, and she felt the whole structure shift slightly. A small scream escaped her throat. "Sarah." Jake's voice again, somehow knowing her name, someone must have told him. "Look at me. Just at me. I've got you. You can't catch me from 7 stories up." She shouted back, hysteria creeping into her voice. "That's insane." "You're right," he said, and she could hear the hint of a smile in his words. "But there's a safety air cushion about 15 feet to your left. See it?" Sarah forced herself to look. There it was, a massive inflatable cushion the firefighters had positioned, looking absurdly small from her vantage point. "I can't jump that far," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll miss it." "You won't miss it," Jake interrupted. "Because I'm going to guide you. But you have to trust me. And I know that's a lot to ask from a stranger, but right now, I'm all you've got." Behind her, glass shattered as another window exploded from the heat. The fire escape shuddered again, more violently this time. She didn't have minutes. She had seconds. "Why are you doing this?" she called down, surprising herself with the question. Of all the things to ask in this moment, but somehow it mattered. Jake's response came without hesitation. "Because someone did it for me once. When I was drowning in a river with my daughter strapped to my chest, and I thought we were both going to die, a stranger jumped in and pulled us out. That was 3 years ago. Been looking for ways to pay it forward ever since." Something in his words, in the raw honesty of them, cut through Sarah's panic. This wasn't just a first responder doing his job. This was a person who understood what it meant to be terrified and helpless. "I'm afraid of heights," she admitted, her voice small. "I've been afraid my whole life." "I know," Jake said gently. "I can see that. But right now, you're not jumping into fear, Sarah. You're jumping into something else. Something better. Now, I need you to climb over that railing." Her body rebelled at the very suggestion. "I can't." "You can. 1 leg at a time. I'll count with you. 1. Sarah didn't move. "I've got a daughter," Jake continued, his voice taking on a different quality. "Emma. She's 5. And every single day, I ask her to do things that scare her. Try the monkey bars. Read a new word. Talk to a new kid at school. You know what she says to me." Despite everything, Sarah found herself curious. "What?" she says. "What if I fall? What if I mess up?" And I tell her the same thing I'm telling you right now. Falling isn't the worst thing that can happen. Not trying is. Not trusting that someone will be there to catch you when you do fall, that's the real tragedy. The fire escape made a terrible grinding sound. Metal twisted, and Sarah felt the platform tilt slightly beneath her feet. "Sarah, we're out of time," Jake said, his voice still steady but urgent now. "I need you to climb over that railing and jump toward the cushion. I'll be right here, guiding you. You're not alone in this." "You can't catch me," she repeated, but there was less certainty in her voice now. "Maybe not with my hands," Jake agreed. But with my voice, with my certainty that you can do this, with every ounce of faith I have in someone I've never met but who I know is stronger than she thinks she is, yeah, I can catch you. Sometimes that's what catching someone really means. Being the voice that says you can when everything else says you can't. Sarah looked at the cushion, then back at Jake. In his face, she saw something she hadn't expected, recognition. Not of her specifically, but of what she was feeling. This man understood terror. He understood the paralysis that came with it. And he was asking her to move through it anyway. On 3, she heard herself say. Jake's face broke into a smile that she could see even from 7 stories up. On 3. I'm right here. 1, Sarah whispered, gripping the railing. 2, Jake called up, his voice strong and sure. Sarah climbed over the railing, every muscle in her body screaming at her to stop, to hold on, to stay where she was even as the structure beneath her crumbled. 3, she jumped. For a moment, there was nothing but air and terror and the absolute certainty that she had made a fatal mistake. The world spun, the lights blurred, her scream tore through the night. And then, impact. The cushion caught her with a pneumatic whoosh, and she bounced once, twice, before strong hands grabbed her arms, steadying her, helping her off. The hands belonged to firefighters, to paramedics, to a dozen people who had been waiting to catch her. But it was Jake's face she saw first when her feet touched solid ground. He was there, as promised, his eyes bright with relief and something else, pride, maybe, or joy. You did it, he said simply. Sarah's legs gave out, and she sat down hard on the wet pavement, shaking uncontrollably. Jake sat down beside her without asking, just a steady presence in the chaos around them. I thought I was going to die, she said through chattering teeth. But you didn't. You jumped instead. She turned to look at him properly for the first time. He was younger than she'd thought, maybe mid-30s, with kind eyes and the sort of face that looked like it smiled often. There was a coffee stain on his jacket. He looked like someone's dad. Someone's neighbor. Someone utterly ordinary and completely extraordinary all at once. Your daughter, Sarah said suddenly. Emma. She's lucky to have you. Jake's expression softened. I'm the lucky one. She taught me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the thing anyway. I was just passing that lesson along to you. A paramedic approached with a blanket, draping it around Sarah's shoulders. She accepted it gratefully but didn't take her eyes off Jake. I don't know how to thank you, she began. He shook his head. You already did. You trusted me. You jumped. That took more courage than anything I did. You gave me a reason to, Sarah said. You told me about the person who saved you and your daughter. You made it about something bigger than just me and my fear. Everything's bigger than just us, Jake said quietly. That's the whole point. We're all connected by these moments, the times we reach out, the times we catch each other, the times we jump even when we're terrified. That's what makes us human. Over the following weeks, as Sarah worked with her insurance company and found a new place to live, she kept thinking about that night. About Jake's voice in the darkness, steady as a lighthouse beam. About the way a complete stranger had stood beneath her and refused to let her give up. She learned that Jake Morrison was indeed a single dad, working as a construction supervisor and raising Emma on his own since his wife had died in childbirth. She learned that he volunteered with the fire department on weekends, that he'd been at the scene of her building fire by pure chance, having just dropped Emma off at his sister's house nearby. When they finally met for coffee 3 weeks later, Sarah found herself nervous in a completely different way than she'd been on that fire escape. I keep thinking about what you said, she told him as they sat in a corner booth at a local cafe. About falling not being the worst thing. About trusting that someone will catch you. Jake stirred his coffee, a small smile playing at his lips. Those words have been rattling around in my head since Emma was born, he admitted. When her mom died, I was drowning. And then when we actually almost drowned in that river, and a stranger saved us, I realized that life keeps asking us to jump. To trust. To believe that the fall might lead somewhere better than staying stuck ever could. Is that what you tell Emma? Sarah asked. Every day. Though mostly when she's deciding whether to try the scary slide at the playground. His smile widened. The philosophy applies to bigger things too, though. Sarah took a breath. Like deciding whether to get coffee with someone you met during the worst night of your life. Or like saying yes when someone asks if you'd like to get coffee in the first place, Jake countered. I was terrified you'd say no. You. Terrified. The man who stood under a burning building and talked a stranger through jumping 7 stories. That was easy, Jake said, and his voice carried the weight of truth. That was about saving a life. This is about something scarier. This is about maybe, possibly, starting something new. Something that could matter. Something I could mess up. Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. It was warm and calloused and steady, just like his voice had been that night. Jump, she said softly. I'll catch you. Jake's laugh was surprised and genuine and full of light. Yeah. Besides, Sarah squeezed his hand, feeling something shift inside her chest, something that felt like hope and possibility and the beginning of falling in a completely different way. Maybe falling for you isn't bad. Maybe it's exactly what I need. Outside the cafe window, Portland went about its business, people hurrying past, cars honking, the world spinning on. But inside that booth, 2 people who had both learned about fear and trust and the courage it takes to leap into the unknown sat holding hands, ready to catch each other, ready to jump together into whatever came next. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust a stranger's voice in the darkness. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that stranger becomes the person who teaches you that falling doesn't have to mean crashing. Sometimes it just means finding your way into someone's arms who was waiting to catch you all along.